When I see some of the artwork and I'm putting this in air quotes for those who are just listening, photography that AI can produce, it is nothing short of mind-blowing. It is amazing. It is beautiful. It's incredible. And I mean, it's more than lifelike. There's no way like the human eye could tell the difference for some of these high-end models. So when I think of photographers, like going on these photo shoots, spending thousands of dollars to go up to a mountain to catch a picture of a lion or something, or a lion and a mountain lion. It's like, I don't know if that's going to be a thing anymore.
Hey, creative. Are you ready to discuss profits, the money, the ways to make it happen? The Profitable Creative Podcast is for you, the creative, how you define it. Videographers, photographers, entrepreneurs, marketing agencies, you get it. CEO of Core Group and author Christian Brim interviews industry experts, creative entrepreneurs, and professionals alike who strive to be creative and make money at the same time. Sound like you? Tune in now. It's time for profit.
Welcome to another episode of The Profitable Creative, the only place on the internet where you will learn how to turn your passion into profit. I'm your host, Christian Brim. With me today, I'm very excited to introduce to you Bo Bennett of Archie Boy Holdings. Bo, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So let's start with, I read your biography. It was very intriguing. Let's give us the Reader's Digest synopsis of your entrepreneurial journey. How'd you get here?
Sure. In the short version, I went to business school for a degree in marketing, which I eventually got in 1994 in a bachelor's in marketing. And then immediately after that, I was running my own businesses. I started with a graphic design firm, quickly turned into an internet company, one of the first web hosting companies of the time. Sold it right before the huge bust, the dot-com bust back in 2001. So the timing wasn't perfect, but it was very good. I was very fortunate compared to how other people fared around that same time. And ever since, I've been mostly starting online businesses having to do with the publishing industry or similar fields. And now in the year 2024, I've been mostly focused on artificial intelligence and using that towards publishing, language learning, and trying some other things as well with AI.
I would love to dig into that topic. So it's funny, I always say when something reaches that level of public consciousness that everybody's talking about it, that's usually like 6 or 7 years too late. Mm-hmm. And last year when everybody was, or has it been 2 years ago? I don't know. When everybody started talking about ChatGPT, I was like, yeah, this is not something that just happened overnight, And I had done a deep dive a few years ago on the subject of AI, trying to emulate Bill Gates and his, go away and read 20 books on a subject. And what I came away from it was fascinating, but I really wasn't sure how it was all going to play out. And then AI pops on the scene recently, and it seems like everybody's hair is on fire around the subject, but still not real clear how to make money with it, right? What do you see from your perspective in publishing or marketing or online in general, the best ways to utilize AI as it sits currently to make money?
Well, before I get to that, I just want to address one thing that you said about if something's been, like people have been talking about it, most likely you're 8 years too late or something.
Right.
I like that. Typically that's good and that's true. With AI, and we're not just AI, but with AI as one example, but pretty much where we are now, the way that the industries move so quickly and technology moves so quickly that pattern has changed a bit. To give you an example, when people were talking about AI back in 2022, pretty much nobody had access to it yet. Right. It was still in development. It was still partially theoretical, but it was also being applied, but only by big companies, and it wasn't released to the public commercially for quite a while. So when it actually did become publicly available, I believe it was sometime early 2023, maybe a little bit earlier to some special people who got chosen. It was still such a small group. So even now, to those of your listeners who are wondering, am I too late? Did I miss the bandwagon on this one? No, I don't think you did. Maybe to be one of the leaders in the industry, using it in some way, maybe. But there's so much opportunity out there, and there's so many possible uses that it's not too late. And it reminds me of Facebook, who jumped on the scene back in 2000, what was it, three? And that was pretty late compared to MySpace and a lot of the other things
Right.
going on there. But you could always change the idea a little bit. You come up with the idea and succeed from that. In terms of your main question about like how can people utilize artificial intelligence to make money, like in what way? Well, if you have any programming knowledge, and even if you don't, like even if you're like just okay, like maybe you know HTML coding, that's good enough. Trust me, because with ChatGPT and AI, you could have that do coding for you, like basic coding, and it gets it pretty darn good. So even without being a programmer or a coder, it could definitely help you out. So if you use some of the APIs that interacts with artificial intelligence, like these large language models, the back end, and you could use it and build your own like web-based interface for it, the opportunities are endless, like and so much what you can do. You just kind of think about what are the common processes today, like what are some of the businesses today, the way that they're doing it kind of like old school, and think like how could AI do it better? Don't even think about it. Go to ChatGPT and say, how could AI help different businesses? Like just keep on naming different ways and just have it keep spitting out these ideas for you. Focus on something, see if other people are doing it, see if they're doing it well. And if nobody's doing it or nobody's doing it well, give it a shot. And at very least, maybe you could hire some people from Fiverr or something that do have some programming knowledge that could help you out in the endeavor. So you either like you have skill or money, or skill and money. But if you have neither, then stick to your 9 to 5 job, I guess.
Yes. So specifically in publishing, how do you see AI affecting that industry?
It has been huge in completely revolutionizing the publishing industry, beginning with the obvious, like artificial intelligence actually doing the writing for the authors. And authors take this to different degrees. Sometimes, like AI could write the entire book. You can't go on ChatGPT and say, write me an entire book. That's not going to work. But through tools like the ones that I've developed at bookbud.ai, I've created all the back end and the prompts and everything and the software to put everything together, utilizing AI to create an entire book. So you just go there with the idea and it creates the book for you. And then some authors use it for assistance. Like they may say, I was just speaking with an author this morning who wrote a book that was like 700 pages and said, I want to get this down to 300. This is just a stream of consciousness. So I suggested them, well, you go on ChatGPT or use AI, upload like one section at a time and tell them to summarize this, to make it more concise, make it more readable. And it'll do that. And then you could also have AI add to it. Let's say you only have a paragraph and you want to make it a chapter. You could tell AI to turn this one paragraph into 3 paragraphs or something along those lines. So you can use AI to supplement your creative work. You could have AI do all the creation for you. And then there's also the monotonous type of work that went along with publishing for like the marketing, finding the right keywords, finding the best categories, writing a book description that sells. All of that now is done by AI and done better than any human that I've ever used before in the past to write descriptions or keywords or whatever.
Are you saying your tools are better or any large language model?
AI is better. AI is better at writing like descriptions with the caveat, of course, you can't just tell AI, write me a book description. You have to know enough about the industry, about marketing, about business, about like the platforms to be able to create a prompt and give AI the correct instructions. And that's where like prompt engineering comes into play.
So one of the books I read on AI was called Prediction Machines. And it was an outlier in the books that I was reading in that it was not written by computer scientists. It was written by two economists. And their basic premise in the book was to kind of predict the economic changes and shifts that AI would cause. And one of the things that I'm going to put that idea, and I'm also going to say that I've heard a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth from creatives or other businesses, but just this whole idea that AI is going to destroy our jobs. It's going to take our jobs. We are no longer going to have any value. And what these economists predicted was going to happen, that as predictions got better and cheaper, of course, they weren't talking about large language models at the time. This is before the outset of those. That economically speaking, when the cost of something goes down, the demand for corollary items goes up. So the example would be if the cost of ice cream went down, the demand for hot fudge and whipped cream would go up because people are eating more ice cream. And they translated that to like professional advice. And so the example they used was medicine. And at that time they wrote the book, they said, well, in certain use cases, AI is better at diagnosing than human doctors or even a team of doctors. And I think at this point, it's probably in all cases, but the demand then would be for people to be able to, one, know the computer's limitations, right? You were describing how to write the prompts. So you have to understand the blind spots of the AI. You have to understand the output. Is that reasonable? But then the demand for judgment and context. And it's like, okay, does anybody want to read this book? Does anybody care about the subject? Those kind of things. So I've said a lot and coughed a lot. What are your thoughts on that stream?
Well, one of the ideas that you mentioned is extremely common, and I see this all the time. The fear of people losing their jobs and the fear of AI taking over. And I could just picture a couple hundred years ago, I live in the Boston area, the streets of Boston, all the guys who are hired to shovel the horse manure off the street, seeing the first car go by, looking at each other, say, man, we're going to lose our jobs. This is going to put a lot of people out of work, including the horse breeders and, the trainers and all that stuff. I mean, yeah, it's going to happen. It always happens. Robotics change things, automation, industrial revolution. It's constant. The computer's a personal computer. I mean, there's never been a time in modern history that I know of where things weren't constantly changing and people's jobs weren't like 100% secure for the most part. So that's always going to be a thing. Do I think AI is any different in terms of the other industry disruptors that we faced before? No, I really don't. I think that there's a lot of hype, and I think some of it's well-deserved when we've seen what AI can do, but how far is it going to go? And how comfortable is humanity going to be with removing that human element from the equation?
Well, yeah. So like in medicine, okay, you could go theoretically to WebMD, load your lab results and your imaging and all of this, and it spits out a diagnosis. Are you going to be comfortable saying, okay, show up for surgery, right? Probably not. And that's where the judgment demand goes up. So people are going to self-diagnose more, and then they're going to want more people to help them interpret the results, right? And so along that line of thought, what would you tell a creative entrepreneur who sees the hard-won skills that they've developed, like how to write or how to create a visual? What do you tell them to be focusing on in this age of AI?
Depending on the exact skill that they have, I would say, for the most part, to either kind of expand on what you do or focus on your personal expertise. So let me address both of those. When I see some of the artwork and I'm putting this in air quotes for those who are just listening, photography that AI can produce, it is nothing short of mind blowing. It is amazing. It is beautiful. It's incredible, and it's more than lifelike. There's no way like the human eye could tell the difference for some of these high end models. So when I think of photographers like going on these photo shoots, spending thousands of dollars to go up to a mountain to catch a
Right.
picture of a lion or something, or a lion in a mountain, a mountain lion, whatever. It's like I don't know if that's going to be a thing anymore. Like so these high end photographers, these I see now with AI, you have the models who can try on different clothes. You could have a clothing brand just use AI to model all the different clothes. I mean, that's so if you're a professional model,
Right.
what do I tell you there? It's difficult for me to give positive advice to everybody saying, oh, don't worry about it. You'll
Right.
be okay. I don't think that's the case. I think that there are going to be those things where like professional models are going to have to move
Right.
from photography to video for the time being. Maybe work on some like
Right.
commercials, build up their acting skills for a little bit. Of course, that's until AI catches up and does all that as well. But you have to stay a step ahead of AI. And I don't know enough about photography and many of these other industries like graphic design to be able to tell people what exactly you need to do to stay ahead of AI. But that's something, see what you can do. See if there is something that you can do to stay ahead of AI and always have that advantage.
Well, let me rephrase the question this way. What did you do as a creative, as a writer?
Mhm.
You adapted and engaged with AI. What was your thought process? What were you looking for as you made the decision to create what you did?
So, as a writer, as an author, I've personally written over 12 books the old fashioned way, starting from scratch and writing the whole things down. One book took over a year. Most of my books took a few months to write, and it was a very enjoyable process. That's why I write mostly, because it's the process that I
Mm-hmm.
enjoy. It's the it's the feeling of accomplishment. It's a feeling like I've taken a part of myself and I've put it in a book that will always be there, that will outlive me.
Right.
So there's something to that AI could never take away. But in terms of finances, like that's a little bit different. Like, can AI write a book and make as much money as a human who writes a book? Yes. AI could probably do a better job in many cases in doing that. So it's not just about the money part. You've got to kind of reach and find something else. But I'll tell you what I did specifically that really allowed me to embrace AI. Besides creating BookBud and helping other people use AI to write books and making that a profit center for me, which is very profitable, and it was a good business move to do that. But I had over probably like 50, 60 different book ideas that I've been collecting over the years with notes and just like little chunks of ideas that were never good enough to like write a book. There just wasn't enough information. But with the help of AI, I've turned dozens of those into books already because now I could use that as kind of like the seed for AI to help me to expand that on a full book. So here are my ideas, these messages that I wanted to get out to the public that it would have still been in my like notes folder today if it weren't for AI. But thanks to AI, I was able to do that quickly and efficiently and affordably. So there's a couple of different ways that I used AI to help me personally as like a creative writer to get me in a better position where I am today than I was before AI.
So specifically in developing BookBud, how did you decide what you were going to use AI for?
When I was developing BookBud, it was clear to me. It wasn't like a decision process. Like I immediately saw the need for, or the opportunity, I should say, to allow AI to create a full book. Like man, if it could create a book description just by me telling it a few different things, why can't it create a whole book? And it could. But there's a lot behind it in order to get it to work correctly.
Right.
And as a programmer and somebody who's been programming since 1994, I said, yeah, I'm up for the challenge. I definitely want to do this. And I worked on it for a long time, created a lot of books, and then opened it up to the public.
Today's episode of The Profitable Creative is brought to you by Core Group. Are you tired of doing it all yourself? Do you feel like you have no plan? Let Core Group guide you to build the business of your dreams. Core Group, your go-to accountant for creatives.
So, the problem as I perceive it with public LLMs is that it's, any AI is beholden to the underlying data, right? So and coming from my background in accounting and finance, I'm thinking of numbers, right? So that's a different use case. But the problem that I see of using these public tools without any tweaking or parameters is that it's going out and looking at what's already been written. And if people continue to use AI to push more content to the web, it sounds almost like some kind of cycle or
feedback loop
or an echo chamber, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that?
It's never going to be a closed loop, meaning that there's always going to be human contributions that come into the mainstream in terms of like Twitter feeds, social media posts in general, blog posts, essays, and all of that. So I don't think that that's going to be a major issue. In addition, if AI is not really touched, like if it's not altered a lot, the content, AI can detect itself in that it could detect its own writing. So I wonder if there's already something in place where when it goes out to get new information, ignores information that it has already created out there.
Yeah.
So I wonder if something like that exists. But I don't think that's going to be an issue, again, due to the human contribution, which will always be there to some extent.
Yeah, and it seems like everybody's developing their own internal, Meta's got their own, Google got their own, Microsoft, has their own. And it is exciting because, you go back, your example was the guy shoveling horse shit in Boston. Did he particularly like that job? No. I mean, who would, right? And so as a society, everybody wins, but maybe not proportionately, right? So you're going to have disruption at the individual level, but overall, the opportunities are more. Right. People could travel further distances in less time. So that's exciting, right? And sure. I think AI is very exciting, but I think we as entrepreneurs need to, I kind of feel like a lot of people are thinking that it's just a hype bubble and that it's going to go away, and they're just kind of ignoring it. Do you perceive that?
I haven't encountered people personally with that belief, but I certainly would not be surprised if people did hold that belief.
Yeah, like that it was going to impact them, I guess, is kind of like the belief that that's going to affect other people is not going to affect me.
Yeah, okay, then absolutely with that case, because I could just imagine there are a lot of fields out there right now where AI really isn't a big piece of the puzzle, and it doesn't really impact them very much. And because that's the case, they're really not thinking about it. So they're just not concerned. Will it in the future? Probably.
Well, and it completely tangential side pays. Our industry recently has seen venture capital come in, and they're actually buying accounting practices. Now, they have to be of a certain size before they'll look at them, but it's obviously a very labor-intensive industry, right? It's a lot of people. And I can't help but think that VCs in our industry are going to start squeezing some of those people out to make the profit to justify what they're paying and use AI.
Yeah.
So let me switch gears. One of the questions I really like to ask people is, what did you learn about money growing up?
I was part of a unique family, which I think everybody is to some extent, of course, right? But my family were all entrepreneurs. my father, my mother, my sister, and my brother. So I never grew up in an environment where it was common to go out and get a job, go out and find a job. It was more about creating a job. And the fact that everybody was in like their own business, everybody was really focused on money. Money was like a huge thing. Like if my mom made a big sale, she'd come home, we'd celebrate, she'd be really excited. If my dad sold an invention for a lot of money, we'd all go out to dinner and we'd celebrate. So money was like a huge motivator. I was taught that it was like the grand prize, like that's what you wanted to go for. So that's what I believed, and that's what I was shooting for, and certainly it was motivating. Pretty much everything I did from my choice to college, I was always interested in psychology, but I knew that psychology wouldn't be as profitable as business.
Right.
So I went to school initially for my bachelor's degree in marketing, and it wasn't until 20 years later I went back and eventually got my PhD in social psychology. So money was everything, and it was a big motivator growing up.
Has that motivation changed as you've experienced success and
Yes,
aged?
absolutely. Yeah. When you get things, you either, well, I guess some people want more of it, or some people don't really want it anymore. Some people will get it and say, okay, I have it, and I'm still not like satisfied. Like
Right.
this didn't do the trick. Maybe it wasn't the pieces of green paper that I wanted or the numbers in my bank account. Maybe it's something else. So for me, I can't say that I was your typical uh, story that you see with the moral of people were asking for money and then they got the money and they realized, oh, it was all about family and love. Now, that wasn't my story. I made a lot of money. I got it. I was extremely happy that I got it. And I spent a lot of it, and I was very happy spending it. So I enjoyed the money, and I still enjoy having enough of it and going after enough of it to reach a certain level. And I think that's where I changed over the years. I think like my initial view of money was I like kind of like an unlimited amount, but then you start to realize that with the pursuit of so much money, you have to make sacrifices. You
Yeah.
have to give in things. And I realized like some of the things I love the most is working from home. I was so fortunate to be able to work from home always my whole career and watch my kids grow up. My kids were with me every day, and I wasn't one of the dads that came home at like 7 at night and just put them to bed and then didn't see them again until dinner time the next day. So that's something that, as the cliche goes, money can't buy, but in a sense it could, because the having an adequate amount of money afforded me that luxury
Sure.
to be able to make the decision to stay home. And so little choices like that, like I love to exercise. I love to stay in shape, which means that I spend like a couple hours a day doing some cardio or weights or whatever. And that is time that I could be spending towards a financial goal, like doing some kind of work or something. But I choose not to, because my health and fitness, especially at my age, is more important now to me
Right.
than the acquisition of money. So over time, you start making those changes. And then, of course, when my kids were young and I was really focused on the family, like that kind of took priority. But now they're both kind of on their own, and I'm back in that, I wouldn't say selfish stage, but I'm back in the stage where I kind of move from you start with the selfish and then you focus on family, and now it's more about what can I do for society in whole. Like you want to leave something. If I'm lucky, I'll be here for another 50 years. That'd be amazing. And then I'm gone. I would love to leave something, make like a really good mark on the world. So it's more of that like long term contribution to humanity in general that I'm going after now. So that's kind of like the main motivator. But money is a big part of that, because money allows you to do the things you really want to do. So you can't just see it as like this like just buy into all these TV tropes or whatever when they tell you like money is evil and people who wanted it are greedy. There's so much good to it. And it's just like a tool, like any other tool. It could be used for good or bad. It depends on the kind of person you are.
Yeah. And as a amateur economist, I'll say everything has a cost, right? Even if it's an opportunity cost of something you didn't do. So being intentional about those choices, I think, is important. I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs, unfortunately, that get on the hamster wheel of financial success and then don't have any time freedom, right?
No.
And, building a business doesn't require your constant input where you're having to trade your time for dollars is key. And, I read a book recently that was written, it was basically investment advice for the layperson. And it was the only sentence that was bolded in the book. And he said, you're not wealthy unless if you still worry about money. And it was like you could be happy with $500,000 in the bank, and you could be unhappy with $50 million in the bank. Like if you're constantly worried about money and it being there, then you're not truly wealthy. And I thought that an interesting statement. Hey listeners, are you ready to turn your passion into profit? Then grab a copy of Profit First for Creatives. Click the link in the show notes to purchase a copy. And if you're not ready to make that full commitment, you can download a free copy of the first chapter. Check it out right now.
There's a similar quote from, I believe it's Ben Franklin, about like it uses old English terminology for money, but basically if you make $100 and you spend $101, you're going to be miserable. If you make $100 and spend 99, you're going to be happy.
Yeah.
That's the point of it. And that is so true. It's so true. It's not about exactly just how much you make. It's about how much you spend. But like in psychology and sociology, many studies have been done on happiness and wealth and just financial accumulation, how much you spend. And all of them show the same thing. You need like a certain level of base income to be happy. And it is true that if you don't have that money, it leads to misery. If you don't have enough to feed yourself, to feed your family, for adequate shelter, kind of the basics. But once you get to like a base amount, then everybody could be extremely happy there, depending on how much you spend. And it shows like even like dramatic increases in wealth only lead to like marginal increases in happiness. And some of that probably has to do with some of the things that I was referring to, like the ability to stay home, the freedom that comes along with wealth. And that's, for me, that's huge, but maybe for some other people, it's not as important.
What is if I were going to say, look back on your entire life thus far, what are you most proud of accomplishing? Business, personal, whatever.
Well, let's get all the low-hanging fruit, like the things that everybody says about, like, getting married and having kids and bringing kids into the world. I think that's kind of like standard for everybody. Besides that stuff, I think like earning my black belts in martial arts, that's always an accomplishment. I think because it was at a young age, it was at a time when I wasn't very disciplined, but that journey allowed me to become disciplined.
Mm-hmm.
And how much work and effort goes into it, that looking back at that's pretty huge. And like earning the PhD, like a lot of the degrees and the accolades or whatever, those are the ones that have a lot of work behind it.
Yeah.
I think those are some things that I could point to in terms of like the financial success. I don't even put that on the list because I really and truly do believe that, yes, while I do believe I'm like a persistent, determined individual, and I have like some of these business skills or whatever. I think a vast majority of people like hitting the metaphorical jackpot has to do with luck.
Mm-hmm.
It has to do with being in the right place at the right time. The only reason that I sold my company for as much as I did when I did is because I started that company right when the internet was taken off, because that was right when I got out of school. It was
Right.
like the perfect timing. I didn't have a family. I didn't have all these loans. I didn't have, I was paying a few $100 in rent or whatever. So I was in the perfect place to devote all my time and do the Bill Gates thing and read 20 books on the topic in order to learn all about it and start this company. And then I happened to get out of it, like out of stupid luck. I was like, one of my former employees sold his business to another major telecom, and he said, "Hey, you got to check out this guy. He's got a really good company too." I mean, this crazy chain of events that I had no like input in.
Right.
There was none of my like wisdom or knowledge that started these events. It was just like a chain event of like crazy coincidence and luck ended up me selling my business for what I did and when I did. So yeah, I'm happy. I do think that it wasn't, I don't think anybody put in that situation could have done it. But I think that I could definitely contribute a lot of it to just good fortune, good timing, and old-fashioned luck.
I don't know what golfer it's attributed to, but the phrase "I'd rather be lucky than good," and that's true. I'd rather be lucky.
As long as the overall goal,
Yeah.
outcome is the same, right?
Yeah, I have a colleague that is pursuing he sold his company and he is pursuing his doctorate in psychology, and just listening to he before he was an entrepreneur, he was an educator, so he knew what he was getting into as far as the effort that was involved. But that is an accomplishment. That's a grind to get your doctorate in anything. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Is your wife an entrepreneur?
No, she's a very artistic, creative type. So she works with pottery, and so she enjoys doing that.
Nice.
My daughter's got the entrepreneurial bug.
And what's she working on?
She works with me, and she's always coming up with ideas. She does some like real estate on the side. She's definitely got it. My son, not yet. I'm not too sure about him. He's 22. He's still finishing up school, college, but he seems to. But he's definitely got the programming bug. That's what he's been doing and focusing on.
You can make it a family affair.
Yeah.
I do find that strange. Not strange. It's unusual that you came from a family of entrepreneurs. I mean, usually there's one or the other, mother or father, but it's unusual to find two in a family. So you were very fortunate to have that experience, for sure.
Yeah, I believe so.
Changes your whole worldview.
It was my only worldview. There was no change to it. That's all I knew.
Right.
Yeah.
Bo, how do people find you and find your books and BookBud and whatever else?
Well, I have two main websites. If you go to archieboy.com, archieboy.com is my business website where you'll see in the homepage the links to all the different businesses that I run, including BookBud, Author Voices, Book Marketing Pro, and Science-Based Learning, the whole gamut of the websites I have. And BoBennett.com is my personal website where you're just going to find all of my books that I've personally written.
Perfect. Bo, I very much appreciated your time. Thank you very much. You were very gracious.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of The Profitable Creative. Until next time, you money lovers. And don't forget, Profit First for Creatives is live via Amazon. Link below.